right, Shalom. Shalom. We're gonna get started and get ready to enjoy this Sabbath day. And we're just gonna come forth with a prayer and then go into praise and worship and get right into the word. Father Yah, we come before you right now in the name of your son, Yahushua Mashiach. Thank you right now for this day that you have made, and we should continue to rejoice and be glad in it. Father Yah, we just come before you, just thank you right now for just your divine protection being over our life. Father Yah, we just come against everything that's not like you, anything that tries to hinder us, Father Yah, anything that tries to slow down or stop our walk in you, Father Yah. Father Yah, we come against right now the root of bitterness, Father Yah. We come against all forms of bitterness, Father Yah, all forms of envy, Father Yah, all forms of jealousy, all forms of strife, all forms of anger, resentment, retaliation. We come against all these things right now, Father Yah. Father Yah, we just thank you right now for just being with us. We thank you right now for just allowing us to be in perfect health, Father Yah. Father Yah, we thank you for supplying all our needs through Yahushua Mashiach, Father Yah. Father Yah, we just magnify your name for this day right now because you alone are worthy right now, Father Yah. Father Yah, we barak your name right now, Father Yah. We loosen up and take the time out to acknowledge, Father Yah, that you didn't have to wake us up this morning, Father Yah, but you saw fit, Father Yah, to let us have another day, Father Yah, another day to get it right, Father Yah, another day to be a servant of you, Father Yah, Father Yah, another day to look at ourselves in the mirror, Father Yah, and realize that it's us, Father Yah. It's us that have the power and the ability to overcome things through Yahushua Mashiach. We thank you for the strength that he's given us, Father Yah. Father Yah, we just thank you right now for just being with us as a whole, Father Yah. We thank you right now for making all our crooked paths straight, Father Yah. Father Yah, we magnify your name because you're worthy. We thank you because there's none like unto thee, Father Yah. Father Yah, we thank you right now for this is the day that you have made, Father Yah, and we shall continue to rejoice and be glad in it. In the name of the son, Yahushua Mashiach, we have prayed, so be it. We're going to be dealing with bitterness today, and we're going to be dealing with that. We know that there are roots of it, but we just kind of give the plain topic now. Bitterness in general, we'll be dealing with, bitterness. Basically, we know with food, it's the lack of being sweet, the lack of having, salt to it. But when you're dealing with being bitter, there's anger and disappointment. Something may have transpired in your life that may have caused you to be, have resentment, or to be angry, or to be disappointed, to be disgruntled, to be at an uneasy state. And it's roots behind it. So we're going to get into that a little later. But we know that bitterness basically causes you to also project things, It causes you, I wrote down, it's the psychological defense mechanism in which we apply our own negative traits to others rather than confront them ourselves. And so the example I have here is just a basic example of projecting. A child basically gets yelled at by his father at home, gets mistreated, it could be by both parents, mother or father. But, what he does is gets to school, and I would say, just to make it short, turns into a bully. He starts actually, because he has felt belittled in the process of his father yelling at him and mistreating him at home. And, he feel like, he's not worth anything. So he gets to school and starts doing that same thing also. He starts, making others feel the same way rather than coping with the issue or trying to build up his self-esteem again. He starts acting out behind the bitterness that caused him to be that way, which started at home. But, for us dealing with projection, just to get back to that, instead of us saying we have an issue, we have to look at others and say, look, no, it's not me, it's you. You're the one with the problem. But instead of me looking in the mirror saying, okay, I have the problem, I look at you and say, it's you with the issue and not me. So I just excuse myself from any issues, period. And I just say that it's you. And this is what people do. They go along saying this over and over and over again. And so bitterness really springs up all different type of things. We're gonna get into it, a lot of more definitions later that stem from being bitter, ways that it causes you to act and stuff. But what we want to get into now is the scripture. And inside the scripture is going to talk about trouble, and bitterness causes you to, to have troubles and stuff. So let's look at Hebrews chapter 12. In Hebrews chapter 12, we're going to look at, start at verse 14, and we're going to stop at verse 16, Hebrews chapter 12. And a lot of times we get these scriptures and a lot of people read the scriptures, but they don't really look at what's behind the word that the scripture is talking about. They just read the scriptures. Before we get into this, I want to look at this, and for those that's watching this YouTube channel that are not here live, and some of those that's here live, if you look at the about section, it's about being delivered. So this isn't nothing that's trying to get somebody excited and all this stuff, because what happens in church in the normal setting, you got a bunch of pastors running around, holding the back of their head, shouting and sweating and stuff, and they're just repeating stuff in the scripture, but people are hurt and they're not getting delivered. They're not getting to the root of the problem. They're just actually there getting excited for the moment. And they leave with that same, problem that they had when they came, because it was just a temporary fix. And we don't want a temporary fix. We don't want somebody just to get excited. We want you to understand. Because when you look at Ephesians 4, somewhere around the 11th verse, it talks about what people would call the fivefold ministry. It talks about the gifts he gave when he left Yahushua Mashiach. He said he gave some pastors and teachers. And the thing with this is like all pastors have to be a teacher, but all teachers are not pastors when you break this down, because there's a pastoral anointing that's on your life to care for flock, but everybody that can teach don't care about no flock. That's the thing. So but to be a pastor, you need to be a teacher, because you're supposed to teach the word. And this is the thing, most of them are not teachers, but they're claiming to be pastors. So the people are leaving with a temporary fix. You know what I'm saying? It's like they go from one day all the way to that last day. And when they get there on that Sunday or whatever Saturday, whatever day you're having your gathering, they hear it for that one moment and they leave the same way they came. They don't leave with an actual solution to the problem, because no one gets to the root of things. They just deal with the surface. They just deal with what was said in the scripture. That's why we look at this and we say, okay, all this stuff was given for our inspiration. It's just a history book. We don't deny what's in the book, but if you don't go to the root of what's being said, you're not going to get any help. And so let's go to, so basically what I was saying that to say, when you hear these topics like bitterness and you hear topics like social condition and stuff, these are the problems people need to get delivered from. This isn't nothing where I'm trying to get people, happy and jumping off their feet and stuff, because you could be doing that and still have an issue. You know what I'm saying? Like witches get excited, sources get excited, devils get excited, but they don't get delivered. That's the thing. So let's look at Hebrews chapter 12, starting at the 14th verse, and we'll stop at the 16th verse.
Hebrews 12 and 14.
Hebrews 12, 14, 15, and 16.
Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see Yahuwah. Looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of Elohim, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled, lest there be any fornicator or profane person, as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright.
And so it's the thing. So looking at that 15th verse, that's why I said in 14, follow peace with all men and holiness. And what I want to say is, you can be at peace with somebody and not be in an unforgiving state and still don't have to deal with them on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying? It's like people think being at peace means that you have to accept the individual back into your lifestyle and deal with them on the regular. Some people you have to do that with, but some people you don't. You just have to let go of that bitterness. You know what I'm saying? That offense. I mean, it's like a lot of people have been offended. And what has happened is in what we're having now, dealing with first those that are watching that's actually dealing with the Christian church world, a lot of y'all actually started ministries out of bitterness. You got hurt at another church, so you go say, look, I'm gonna start my own thing, and it's being birthed from resentment, from rejection, from from a lot of bitterness. So therefore you actually, it's kind of like hurt begets hurt. So you've been hurt, and so what you do is you cause, and what your ministry does is it start hurting other people. And you start targeting anybody that say anything against anything you have to say because of what you have dealt with. You didn't get delivered. You just went and started a gathering. And this is the thing. So it talks about the root of bitterness causing trouble. So the trouble is the actual synonyms that come from bitterness. You know what I'm saying? We'll get into anger and all these other things that actually come from it. But this is talking about the root of bitterness. And so when you're dealing with this, bitter, it springs from something different. Bitter is just a result of what it is that happened to you. And so bitterness is the state of being. That's how you're acting based on what you dealt with. And so we'll look at this here. I looked at quite a few things here. One of the first root of bitterness I wrote down is rejection. And rejection turns into anger. You know what I'm saying? It turns into you closing things off. It turns into you getting in a position where everything that you have going on has to be seen through the glass of your world. Like you don't accept others in because you're thinking, okay, well, they're gonna hurt me. So you stick with, it narrows your group down, where you don't really get out and try to, I would say, enlarge your territory because you've been hurt and you've been rejected. So you stick to those little few that you can stick with, and you don't really allow nobody else in, and then you ain't really trying to get out and see nobody. That right there, you close off the door. You shut up the door for salvation to others. And it's like with doing that, it actually bursts out a whole lot of other issues. It's like you start bringing out all type of things out of you that's actually, you know, manifesting in other people because of what you've been through. So people dealing with, actually, I would use one of my slang words, the whiplash, you know what I'm saying, of the cause of what happened to you. You got other people dealing with this. So you look at rejection, basically, which turns into anger. You know what I'm saying? So anger is another spirit that comes from bitterness. It causes you to be angry. The words say be angry with sin not, but there's a spirit of anger. And in this spirit of anger, it causes you actually to act out because of what has happened to you. It's turned you into something that you're not. You ever see people that you can remember at a point in time and they wasn't that way? Sometimes you can't even go back further enough for the person to even see how they were because they've been like that for as you knew them. But if you go back a little further, you'll get to a root, you'll get to a problem that caused this person to be angry. And this anger causes unforgiveness. So since you're angry, you're actually not quick to forgive any other ones. You know what I'm saying? If somebody do something against you, you don't realize unforgiveness is a prisoner. I mean, when you don't forgive somebody, it causes you to be in prison. If you think about this, it steals power from you. It steals your energy from you. When someone controls how you emotionally react and act and feel, they've taken the power away from you. It's like they have authority over you. When you walk into a room, or somebody walk into a room, and then they change how you feel, your whole atmosphere, that means they have the power over you. And especially if somebody you're supposed to forgive them about something, you're saying, okay, look, I'm not going to forgive them because of what they done to me. But the Most High let you know that it's going to cause you. In the book of Revelation 22, it say right before the lake of fire and brimstone, all unforgiveness. Anybody that's got unforgiveness is going to go into that lake of fire and brimstone. So you're letting this person, what they done to you, cause you to act out. They did it. You didn't do it. But since it happened to you, you letting it cause you letting it control your emotion. It's causing anger. It's causing resentment. It's causing all these different issues that act out inside of you based on what they did, not what you did. And that's the problem. So that means they're controlling you. And this is what we're dealing with. Bitterness is just a form of bondage that we're dealing with. Remember, it's about being delivered. It's not about just repeating what the Bible says. It's about what are you getting out of what it's telling you, and how does it actually apply to your life? How do you actually get away from what it's saying, get away from? And so I looked at a lot of this stuff here, and I actually wrote down basically hatred causes you to hate people. It causes memory recall. Memory recall is like, you can remember something that happened bad to you 20 or 30 years ago, but you can't remember where you left your glasses at 5 minutes ago. And this stuff is spiritual, you know what I'm saying, demonic, you know what I'm saying, something brings up old hurt, bubbling up inside of you because you haven't been delivered. You can remember that hurt from years and years ago, but you can't remember what you put down, one sentence you put down on a paper a day ago, because this hurt, it has you trapped. It has you in bondage. Like I say, bitterness is a form of bondage. It's entrapment. And as long as you're bitter, you're not going to advance. The Most High, it's hard for him to use somebody that's bitter because they have narrowed their territory down. They'll put everybody in this paradigm, in this space in the world of what they have dealt with. So every time you see somebody, you're looking at them as if you're looking at the person that did that to you, like that. And that's what's going on. So rather than you releasing this individual from your spirit, from your ruach, those that want to, switch up the words, you're holding them captive. And the thing is, you and them are both going to lose in the end. So nobody shouldn't be worth your soul and your salvation because of the fact that they've done something to you. That's why it's so serious. It restricts you. Anytime you're dealing with the root of bitterness, it stops you from moving forward. Like I said, it puts you at a limited situation where it puts you in a box where you can't think past what happened to you. That's why when people have dealt with all these different things, rejection and everything, it's like this. When I looked at some anger management things, I've been looking at them for years. And one of the things is someone having a different opinion doesn't mean they're your enemy. And especially in the Bible, it's like it's so many different translations, so many different words. That's why it's important to know your calling and to know what the Most High is telling you to do, because someone's different interpretation of even the word doesn't mean now you have to attack them and start going off on the deep end and calling them the devil and all. That stems from something different. If you can't sit down and have an adult conversation with someone seeing something different than you, then you're the one that's in error. And that's another entrapment. That's what people have to realize. It's okay to see different views. It don't cause for an argument. And you don't have to control that person's opinion. The fact that they saw different doesn't make them your enemy. You don't have to force what, they may never get what you got going on and may see it your way. And that's okay. Once you accept that releases you from that. It's too much pressure. See, when you deal with the end of this is suicidal. That's why people commit suicide, because so much pressure and so much different stuff from bitterness has been piled up inside them to the point where they have this I don't know if callous, but they have this type of, this demonic mentality where they don't even care. They just ready to just pop off and do whatever. Something caused them to get to that point where they can just go in there and shoot up a church, where they can just go in there and just held someone captive for days and days and days and find their body inside the house and like, what happened? Why did you kill these people? It starts from somewhere else. And somewhere along the line, this person was rejected. That's why when you go back to the scriptures, say, root of bitterness spring up and trouble you. That's the trouble right there. The trouble is these synonyms from bitterness. The trouble is anger. The trouble is rejection, memory recall, demons bringing this stuff back up to your remembrance. What happened to you back in the days, causing you to hold everybody else captive as the person that did this to you. Everybody didn't do it. It's the person that did it. And you have to actually get to the root of this and release yourself from this situation where you're not held bound by this person for the rest of your life, because they're stopping your mission. And so you can't move further in Yah. Of course, we have unforgiveness. And basically, we have the idea of murder that comes from. That's what causes murder. You know what I'm saying? Murder comes because of the fact that now you just, all bets are off, you don't care, just ready to kill somebody. You don't care what has went wrong, or you're ready to be suicidal and take your own life. All this comes from bitterness. Bitterness is just an idea of somebody just not coping with what happened to them and just releasing the fact that, hey, look, this person did it, just let this person go on and forgive this person where you can move on. But instead of doing that, they say, okay, look, I'm going to stay bitter. I'm going to stay mad. They did this to me, and I'm going to deal with anybody that come my way. I'm going to crush them. Like anybody that say something to me, I'm going to snap back at them. And all that stuff, it's a bunch of energy. It takes too much energy to be constantly wrestling and snapping at somebody and tit for tat. If you would just let go what happened to you, then you can be able to deal with things as an adult. You can have the conversation and get to a point where you can be angry, but sin not. It's okay to have a different opinion or something. It's okay for someone to say something. Even if someone disrespects you, it's the way that you deal with it. You can be firm, deal with it, respond back, but it shouldn't cause you to go off into some rage to the point where now you're ready to snap at everybody. And that's what we have going on. Like say we have the situation where the husband goes to work and his boss, unjustly causes, him to be, punished or lose his time for something he did or demotes him or something like that. Now he comes home and, everything is enraged, or dinner may not be fixed, stuff may be all over the place, kids running around. So now it starts lashing out at everybody. It all stems from whatever it was that happened from there. Instead of them saying, okay, I'm gonna leave work there, deal with that while I'm there, I'm gonna bring it all home. It flows over. The same thing with bitterness. Everything that happened to you flows over into those people that you have a relationship with. It flows into their life and it affects your relationship with them because you haven't dealt with what happened to you. And nobody around you will tell you. They'll say stuff like, well, that's just such and such. That's the way they are. No, that's not the way they are. And it stems into the family, the children. Everybody deals with this because you had this happen to you, you protect them and they don't get the real reality of life. So when life kicks them in behind, you be like, oh man, what happened to my baby? Well, what happened to them, you try to shield them based on what happened to you. Now you're causing them not to be able to deal with reality. They don't realize that it's a real world out there that doesn't agree with everything they say, just like you do. And you cause them to be in danger when you do that. So you have to be able to look at things for face value for what they are. And if you don't, it causes a false reality to be around you to the point where you say, okay, everything has to be viewed the way I see it because of what happened to me. Now everybody is a threat and an enemy. But everybody is not a threat and an enemy. You can't even do the work of the Most High thinking that everybody's a threat and an enemy and get mad based on different opinions and stuff of that nature. Is childish. And that's another form of bondage. So we're gonna look at let's look at 1 Samuel, the 16th chapter. And before we read that, I'm gonna give a little background on something I'm not gonna even go into. But we're gonna look at 1 Samuel, the 16th chapter, dealing with the counselor of David, which is Ahithophel. And the situation with this is, just to fast forward all this, David is king. Of course, a couple of chapters earlier, Saul and Jonathan, they have passed. David is king at this point, and David has a counselor before him. But during this battle, when the ark is gone, we have Bathsheba, and we know the incident that happened with David and Bathsheba, where they get together, have a child. David tries to trick Uriah the Hittite, to frame the baby on him. That doesn't work. So as that doesn't work in the process of all this counselor that David has is mad at David. And so he goes on to counsel Absalom, which is David's son. But in the process of all this, when you look at the research, you'll see that Ahithophel is the granddad of Bathsheba, which is the great granddad of Solomon. And so at this particular case here, he had an issue with what was going on. So he quickly joined sides with Absalom, but he gives counsel, and his counsel he gives is perfect counsel from Yah. It's like when we read the scripture, it'll be just as if you're talking to Yah when you talk to Ahithophel. That's just how close he was with the ear of Yah giving you counsel. But the problem with that is he got caught up into whether people was accepting this counsel or not. This is the thing, when you're called to say something, it's not your job to make them accept it, it's your job to present it. And we get caught up trying to, it's the same thing in the prophetic. Prophets get mad because somebody didn't receive a word. Is it from you or is it from Yah? If it's from Yah, then it shouldn't be no problem. But the problem is control. It's a demonic spirit. It's a witchcraft, sorcery spirit attached to it because it has the control factor. The control factor is if the result is you're mad rather than feeling sad or feeling disappointed that this person is going to be harmed down the line. It's never that. It's you're mad and this person didn't receive what you said. You say, hey, I got a word, this and that. And they say, nah, I don't think that's for me. This and that. You say, okay, look, I'm pissed off. They won't even hear what why are you pissed off? They won't hear what the Most High has to say. That's the thing. So this is what we have going on in Ahithophel. For his defense is he had to realize that at this cause, even though he was counseling David, David was a man after Yah's own heart, but he also was a man that had choices to make, and he's going to be held accountable by the choices he made, and he was held accountable. The blood never left his house. That's why it got to the point where King Solomon had to build a temple for David because of what David had done. It was blood on his hand. Nathan the prophet already came to him and said, you're the man, you're guilty, and for this cause, the sword will never leave your house. And so Ahithophel knows all this, but he's so caught up, it's personal to him. He's like, first of all, this is my granddaughter. Another thing, I'm your counselor and you ain't listening no more. I've been telling you this stuff for the longest, and now you're getting to the point you don't want to hear me. It's not your job for somebody to hear you. It's your job to tell them. That's the thing. Like, you can't make a person hear you. That's where they have to be held accountable at to make a right and wrong choice. If that's the case, you can go to hell for them. You don't have a heaven and hell to put them in. It's the Most High. And that's the thing. One plant, another water, and Yah gives the increase. This will help a whole lot of people out, especially those that are calling the prophetic, to just give the word and keep on pushing. That's it. And that's what you have to do. If not, you get caught up into their personal, emotional, mental affairs. The Most High didn't call you to get caught up into the mind of somebody. He called you to give that word, and so it can be effective. And when a word is effective, when you can give that word and walk off, that person's conscience is seared at that point, because they're not thinking it's about you. They're thinking that, hey, this got to be the Most High. I told them I went here, and they just say, okay, hey, that's it. You just walk on out. But let's look at 2 Samuel 16 and 23. This is talking about Ahithophel. 2 Samuel 16 and 23.
And it came to pass after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shears in Baal Chatzor, which is beside Ephraim, and Absalom invited all the king's sons.
Where you at? 2 Samuel, you at 2 Samuel 16 and 23. It'd be 2 Samuel 16 and start at 23.
Sorry. All right. And the counsel of Ahithophel which he counseled in those days, was as if a man had inquired at the oracle of Elohim. So was all the counsel of Ahithophel, both with David and with Absalom.
And this is the thing. This shows you how solidified he is. That's it. How solidified he is, because even though he counseled Absalom, it never changed. It just because he switched people, he didn't start giving bad advice. It said everything that he said was if talking to Yah, even though David messed up and he started counseling his son. Now, if you got to look at this, if you look at these scriptures and read throughout this, there's a war going on between David and Absalom at this time. Absalom wants to be king. And so he actually, in the heat of all this confusion, he switches from David to Absalom. And so let's go down to 17 to the 6th verse of 17 of 2 Samuel.
And when
Hushai
was come to Absalom, Absalom spoke unto him, saying, Ahithophel has spoken after this manner. Shall we do after his saying? If not, speak you.
Okay, this is the thing. So what we're dealing with now that Absalom is taking counsel from Ahithophel, he also has another counsel, which is the one Hushai. And so at this point, they're questioning Absalom's words. They're saying, okay, is this coming from Yah or is this coming from Absalom? So at this point, is this coming from Yah or this coming from Ahithophel? So at this point, Hushai questions this. And so now Absalom is thinking, okay, am I going to listen to him or am I going to listen to him? So since his knowledge is being questioned, go down to 17 and 23 and see what happens in this same chapter, 17 and 23. He's mad because because Absalom didn't just accept his word. Go ahead.
And when Ahithophel saw his counsel was not followed, he saddled his ass and arose and got him home to his house, to his city, and put his household in order, and hanged himself and died, and was buried in the sepulchre of his father.
Okay, that's it. He killed himself. He killed himself because somebody didn't receive his word. You get what I'm saying? It causes bitterness. When you take this personal, listen to me, those that are operating heavy in the prophetic, when you take it personal, that somebody, it's going to cause bitterness to sit in you because you're going to be upset. It's not supposed to be personal. You're supposed to be the representative of the Most High, giving this word from Yah. And if you look at it that way, you won't get to this point. This man killed himself because he had been through too much. He took it all personal. He took what David did personal and went over there and joined David's enemy, which was his son. And then when his son didn't want to hear him, he killed himself. So it had to stem from bitterness. When you trace his roots, when you trace what was going on, once he was the direct counselor of David. He was the counselor of David. Well, when he made it to Absalom, this is what we got going on, those that's in the actual assembly world out there, we call it church hopping. Now you got to another assembly, another church, and there are other prophets, there are other people that can speak from Yah, and you challenging now. Now it's like you're trying to compare what you're saying to what they saying. Well, I know I said something different. They said this. This what he did. He said, okay, well, I know I was hearing from Yah. Who is this guy? I mean, why you listening to him? I done came over here and switched from my daddy to start helping you. I done gave you all this counsel, and everything I said was as Yah had said, and now you don't want to hear me? Bitterness set in. And when that bitterness set in, he hanged himself. Look what happened to with Judas Iscariot. Look at that, getting to that right there, he killed himself. You know what I'm saying? It gets kind of gross on what happened to when he hung himself, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, that was bitterness. Anytime you do something, or you allow something to affect you, whether it be directly or indirectly, it's going to cause bitterness because you allowed it to come in. You allowed it to actually come in and to control you. You can't allow this stuff to get to a point where you're taking everything that happens so personal. And that's what he did. He didn't realize that he had a job to do. You take your job serious, but you can't control other people doing that same job. It shouldn't be a competition. You know what I'm saying? You should know your worth. You should know that you're called by Yah and be confident in your calling without letting what someone else does affect you, even if they are wrong, even if they are right. And if they're saying you wrong and you know you're right, that shouldn't affect you. You can't change a person's view. You know what I'm saying? Getting mad affects you. Being bitter affects you. They done moved on with whatever they done wrong to you or whatever it is, and you're still stuck. And that's the thing. So we're dealing with deliverance. We're dealing with bitterness. So if you look at the pattern, so much had piled up on this guy till he eventually killed himself. He couldn't take it no more. And I mean, he had his mindset. It kicked in quick and so he went home, got his house in order, and then hung himself. He was serious. He was like, I'm done with this. I'm not going to deal with this no more. So it goes on just like people do. You see these stories, they go on, they get everybody together, the children, it's like they kill all of them and then they kill themselves because they can't take it no more. The cares of this world, life has pretty much overtaken them. They've probably been through so much other stuff that now they can't handle it anymore. And that's the thing. We have to make sure that we're not allowing ourselves to hold on to any form of bitterness. You know what I'm saying? That's when you deal with all this, when you look at everything that stems from bitterness, when you look at the anger kicks in. That's why the word said be angry, but sin not, because it knows that anger is going to be that trouble. When it said bitterness to spring up and cause trouble in the book of Hebrews we read. So it's going to be that trouble. It's going to be anger. That's one of the synonyms of it. It's going to cause that trouble. Resentment is going to cause hatred. All kinds of things are going to stem from you because of the fact that you have allowed yourself to be bitter. This is what people are skipping over. That's why I say we're looking at deliverance. People don't look at this stuff. They just go there and they're at church and they're just getting excited and they're hearing, oh yeah, I like that. That was a good word. What did you do with it? How did it affect you? How did it change you to be better? And if it didn't change you to be better and all you did was like it and got excited, you still have that issue. This will set a lot of people free. Not being bound by any of these synonyms that come from bitterness, not being angry, not being resentful, not being a person that retaliates so quick against somebody. I mean, when you set like that and not being self-righteous, you know what I'm saying? Bitterness causes self-righteousness. It causes you to be, false. I mean, it's like you feel like that. If everybody don't see it exactly how you see it, they're wrong and you're right. And that's another trick of the enemy. You know what I'm saying? Being self-righteous. When you self-righteous, it causes you to do all kinds of stuff, to persuade things, to go your way, to persuade people to actually listen to you and to follow you by trickery and all this stuff. You don't have to trick anybody. All you got to do is do what the word said do, and it'll all work out for you in the end. But if you're trying to trick somebody, basically what you're doing is now operating in witchcraft. And another one we left out would cause you to rebel. It causes you to rebel against the truth. It rebel against people. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with bitterness, it causes all type of sickness inside of you. It causes all kinds, you can't even get released from everything that's happened to you because you're bitter. It doesn't cause you to be positive. You know what I'm saying? It gets you in a position where now everything, when you see the glass always half empty rather than half full. Everything is going to be a overkill in your head. Anything happens, it's going to be bad. It causes doubt to set in, unbelief. All this kind of stuff comes in behind being bitter. And you won't be set free from this if you don't look at yourself. It's not everybody else that's got the issue all the time. It's you. You have to look in the mirror and say, okay, what is it that I need to change about me? Whatever you're trying to be, you have to become. So if you're trying to, cause yourself to encourage people, then you have to be encouraged. If you want to be, help people get delivered, you have to get delivered. You can't just repeat stuff that's in the Bible. You can't just listen to ministers online and don't apply nothing to your life. It has to be applied to your life so you can see the increase. One at a time. That's all you got to do. Look at one at a time and deal with one at a time. If you see yourself dealing with anger, fast and pray on it. Get delivered from it. Deliverance is there. The word says, resist the enemy and he will flee. Draw nigh unto Yah and he will draw nigh unto you. That's the scripture. He ain't going to deny you. He ain't going to deny you no good thing. All his promises are yeah and amen. And so if you're dealing with something that you need to get, that you need to conquer, you have to look at this as the strong man. It's binding you. You have to look at this as something that's got you as a stronghold, that's got you where you can't, maneuver like you need to. You're not going to be able to maneuver if you're bogged down with bitterness, you're bogged down with anger. Like I mentioned one time, it's like if you're ministering the word of Yah and we see the spirit of anger on you all the time, you have a spirit. You're not just dealing with an issue that you're talking about. You're angry. Some ministers you hear, it's like every message, they're mad and they're upset. Like I'm thinking, who they mad at? You mean, who did it? And it's like, it's an issue. And what has happened is bitterness has kicked in. So they burst a ministry out of being bitter. And so since they got hurt at this last church, rather than getting delivered first, they started them a church to rebel against the other church. And every message they preach is going to be about the church that hurt them, about the pastor that hurt them, or this, that, whatever that went wrong in their life, or this person that hurt them. It's like, and bitterness is not good, because if you finish looking at Hebrews, when we look at that, Hebrews 12, it talks about hurting others in the end of that. I'm going to turn to that to see exactly what it says, so I won't screw it up. But looking at Hebrews 12 here. Yeah, I'm going to turn to it and see where it's at first so I can get it right. But Hebrews 12. So basically, it's basically going to make you fall from the grace of Yah. Basically, that's what's going to happen. It's going to make you fall from the grace of Yah. When you fall from the grace of Yah, you don't have that assurance with you. It's like you don't have that help. You know what I'm saying? You don't have that help that you usually feel yourself having. When you start getting out of alignment, bitterness causes you to get out of alignment. You fall from the grace of Yah. Things that it seemed like you was doing easily now begin to seem like it's strained now. Now it begin to seem like something is restricting you from flowing or from operating, you know, in the way in which you used to operate, whether it be in a gift that you had or whether it be in the way that you kind of dealt with people in a general way. It's like everything causes more pressure because the grace is not there. And that's what happens. So you can't have an issue that you need to deal with and things work smoothly. It's going to be friction there. It's going to be confusion. And Yah is not the author of confusion. When things are confused, it's like a scale of 90% confusion, probably just to paraphrase, and 10% going smooth. Most of the time when you're operating in the way Yah wants you to operate, things are going smooth and you just have problems along the way. But if it's all friction, that's confusion. And Yah is not the author of confusion. If it's all friction, you came into it, it's something that needs to be corrected immediately because it's not supposed to stay all friction. It's not supposed to stay all where you're constantly going against the grain. And that's what happened when the grace of Yah, when you fall from the grace of Yah, when that root of bitterness kicks in, springs up and it causes trouble. And it say the verse what I was looking for, it said, thereby many be defiled. So they're going to get defiled because of the fact that you have this issue. You're spewing out hatred. You're spewing out hatred. And so they say, thereby many be defiled. That's it. You've been troubled. Now you're troubling everybody. You've been hurt, caused you to be angry. Now you're angry at everybody. And people are being hurt. They're running away. And you're causing them to do the same thing. It's repeating the process over and over again. And so we just have to make sure that we don't allow bitterness to actually cause us to operate in a insidious way or anything like that, you know, trying to be, you know, in an era in which we know we're coming off in a way that's not of Yah, but presenting ourselves to come as Yah just to control this individual, to control the outcome of the situation. So basically just wanted to look at this bitterness. This is one thing that a lot of people are bound by. Bitterness causes all kind of stuff. It lets stuff come in. If we later look at it, start talking about fornication and profane and all this stuff, it just causes you to act out. It causes you to let your guards down because of the fact that now, you know, there's a self-righteousness there. I mean, like that, because you're bitter, everything's going to have to go your way now because of the fact that you've been hurt and now you're not really valuing anybody else's opinion, anybody else's life in general, because you're dealing with somebody's life when you spew hatred and you do things that may cause this person to go down the wrong path or may cause this person to fall from the faith and not want to be involved with anything that got something to do with Yah anymore because you have lashed out at them because you've been hurt. And that's the thing. So we have to deal with the bitterness. You have to nip it in the bud, one of my favorite terms. And the only way you do that is to acknowledge the fact that you are bitter. If you don't acknowledge the fact that you're bitter, you're not going to deal with it. If you're looking over it, you have to acknowledge the fact that these synonyms is sprung from bitterness that are affecting you. Anger, you're angry. You have resentment toward people, and it's all stemmed from bitterness. It's like I see bitterness as just being a tree, and all these roots that are coming from it are the synonyms, the anger, the hatred, and all this fighting stuff we have, you know what I'm saying, coming out against each other. That's where all this one-on-one battles and stuff come from in the church world and in the Hebrew world in general. Those that are fighting against each other, it's pointless. It's like if it's not going to be any fruit behind it where somebody's going to be delivered, you're fighting because someone said this about you. You're fighting because somebody don't believe what you said. The word is being, you know, interpreted as. That's ignorance. That's why we have to make sure we stay in our lane. Don't get distracted by anything. Don't get distracted by social media and don't get distracted by anybody's opinion. Like, it's okay to look at it and take it with a grain of salt, and because you're here to come to study the word for yourself. So getting mad is personal. It shouldn't be personal. If you're seriously sincere about the things of Yah, study to see whether these things are so or not. Research and find out what is true. And the thing that you can't research, it is what it is. Sometimes you may never get it. Sometimes you may get it, but getting mad at the person is not what you're supposed to do. That's not how you're supposed to react to things. You know what I'm saying? You have to think first and then act. That's the thing. But what happens is when things are happening in the heat of the moment, people act first. And then later they think about it and they're sorry. Now sorrowness sets in and you're sorrowful, and it goes along now with that bitterness. So now you're sorry about that, but yet you're still bitter because of the way you acted based on that. And so this bitterness has to be changed. You know, so we have to get rid of the bitterness. We have to get rid of whatever reason we was rejected or whatever, it happened, and you have to deal with it. Whatever it takes for you to deal with it, you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. Go to Yah, counseling, whatever you got to do to get it fixed needs to be fixed, because it's going to spill over into everybody you deal with, your children, everybody that's going to be placed in that box that you're in. So if somebody hurt you, now you're trying to protect them so hard to the point where they can't even experience real life. So they ain't gonna be able to deal with nobody to tell them no or this, that, because you already ruined them. And so this we have to look at. We have to make sure that we're allowing everything to happen based on the way y'all want it to happen, not based on what happened to us. And it affects everybody when you operate that way. No one wants to be around somebody that's constantly angry, constantly bitter, constantly negative. Anybody that's like that, they get talked about. People say, oh, they're so negative, they're so bitter, and this and that, and that's what it is. And you avoid that individual most of the time. But that individual, the people that do deal with them, they're hurting them people, and they're causing issues in their life. So if you see any bitterness going on in your life, or you see any type of synonyms from it, whether it be anger, rejection, or whatever that actually that you're dealing with that's causing you to lash out against people, you have to figure it out and say, okay, I have this problem, and I'm going to go to the Most High about this problem. I'm going to address that I have the issue. Once you address it, the enemy behind it is exposed. And once he's exposed, it's not happening as easy anymore, because you have acknowledged that you have this issue, so you're aware of it. So you're actually thinking, okay, now when this happened, I'm going to act this way. I'm going to, and it happens through prayer, and it happens through acknowledgement, and it happens through you just getting close to Yah. And over time, you'll get yourself to a position where you say, okay, look, now this isn't an issue no more. It didn't happen overnight. It's no snap of the finger. You have to actually work at it. You actually have to put your hands to the plow and say, okay, now that I've acknowledged this, I'm not going to let this control me. I'm not going to be this way. You don't have to be that way. This is happening behind something that happened to you, and you don't have to allow it to control you. At this point, you can be free now. You don't have to be in this box where now, just because something bad is happening to you, you're allowing yourself to lash out and to be hard to deal with, difficult to actually talk to. And that's not the way to be. The Most High doesn't take pride in using individuals like that. That's got to have it everything they way all the time. If you don't have a situation that you're totally controlling, when you're dealing with the general public, you're dealing with just the basic assembly, it's okay. No one don't have to agree with you on everything that's got going on with the word. And that's what people have to realize. I know that's why I say, look, anybody that's arguing with the word, whatever, nah, man, it's a waste of time, because I can pull up so many different translations that can show stuff, but we have to get to some point and do what we're called to do, block out everything different, because when you do run across the individual that show you a different light, look at it, take it with a grain of salt and say, okay, thank you for the information. You don't have to agree with them on the spot or disagree with them. You say, okay, appreciate it, thank you. And you be sincere and look at it for real. If you don't get it, you just don't get it. That's it, and that's what it is. But the basic things you should get, how to operate and how to respect one another and value one another to a degree where you don't disrespect each other based upon a different view. That's the thing that we have to look at. So with that being said, we're going to close out. We dealt with the spirit of bitterness. You don't want to be bound by that. So Father Yah, we come to you right now in the name of the Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. We thank you for this day that you have made. We should continue rejoicing and be glad in it. And Father Yah, we thank you that we're not bound by anything. We thank you that we are free. Your word says, whom the Son has made free is free indeed. In the name of the Son, Yahushua HaMashiach, we pray, so be it.